Bring the Hamilton Township Committee meeting for Monday, May 14th, 2022 to order. Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by faxing notice of this meeting to the Atlantic City Press, the Star Ledger, the Camden Courier, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 7th, 2022. Mr. Cheek? Ms. Hopkins?
Here.
Mrs. Link? Mr. Patali?
Here.
Mayor King?
Here. All right, next I'd ask that you join me in a moment of silent private reflection. I'd ask that you keep our former mayor, Jack Percy, he's a little under the weather and dealing with some issues. Keep him in your hearts and prayers, please. And I'd like to thank the employees, the department heads here at Town Hall, and of course the community as a whole for the outpouring of support with the loss of my mother. I thank you very much. I ask you to keep her in her prayers. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman. I think she did a pretty good job with me, and I lost a best friend, and I just ask that you keep her in your hearts and prayers. So. All right, next we'll move on to guest presentations. We have members of the Green Team here. It's going to be the Green Team report on Trex Community Recycling Program. The floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Audrey Palumbo, and I am a member of the Township Green Team. So a few years ago, we started on a program, and you have some papers up in front of you that reflect part of the program that deals with Trex Manufacturing Company. They make recyclable building products, and they use a lot of plastics and different types of plastics in their recycling program, in their production program. So we undertook a program that has participation from Trex and our Mays Landing Acme, who we're very, very appreciative of for partnering with us. We have collection boxes, such as this, throughout the township. Our volunteers maintain the boxes, and we collect the types of plastics that you'll see on the sheet. We then take that to Acme. Acme takes over from there, and their store-wide practice is to get the product to Acme, from Acme to Trex. But we self-report. The programs are a 6-month interval, and we've been doing it since 2019. And we have to collect at least 500 pounds, which we always go over.
Okay.
And we are rewarded with a beautiful Trex bench, such as the one out front and at other major locations. So besides the fact that we are keeping an enormous amount of plastic out of our landfill, which is our sole or our primary reason for taking on this project, we get a nice reward from that. So the program, we continue on with it every 6 months. We re-enter it. I report to Trex. It's self-reporting. And it's really been a nice way for our community to do a good project and to further enhance the things that the Green Team finds most valuable. And Sue Marks is another member of our Green Team, and she is going to give you some particulars.
Yeah, like Audrey said, starting in 2019, we have now 6 collection places. The county has allowed us to put one in their new municipal courthouse and in the clerk's office, Fellowship Hall Presbyterian Church, the Atlantic County Library, and then here also Township Hall and a Public Works. So between the 6 of them, we have been cracking that nut, like Audrey said, of 500 pounds. And each one of these benches, we have 4 right now. We're due a 5th probably in June. Each one of these is $860. So we're like $3,440 already, which is pretty cool, and they're beautiful benches. They really are. Now, during the pandemic, of course, the drop was closed. So my basement was filled with about 700 pounds of plastic. Now, you hold a plastic bag and you know what it weighs, half an ounce. It was a lot of plastic. So we collected. So from December 2020 to December 2021, we did collect 1,082 pounds. And that was quite a bit. Now, the benches right now are at Sears Cove, which is over in
Harding Lakes.
Harding Lakes, thank you. Township Hall, right up front, Memorial Park, of course, and the Cove. So,
Fantastic.
you know what's going on. That's our initiative, the Trust Initiative. And we just want to make a plug for this Saturday. We are having a fantastic green fair along with Oak Crest.
I will be
10
there.
to 2, very.
First of all, we thank you for everything that you do as the Green Team. We appreciate it. And Joe, can we get this posted on our website for them? And just quickly for those viewing at home, they're looking for produce bags, store bags, ice bags, Ziploc and other reclosable bags, cereal box liners, case overwrap, bread bags, newspaper sleeves, dry cleaning bags, bubble wrap, and plastic e-commerce mailers. So they're the type of things that they can be put into boxes, and we'll load those on the website so people can see where that you've already spoken about. We thank you for everything you do. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. We'll move on to deletion of late agenda items to be considered for action tonight. We do have 2 additions. We have 6D, resolution authorizing the award for animal control services, and 7V, resolution authorizing the Director of Public Works to sign the DEP application. Can I get a motion on those, please?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, next we'll move on to 2. This is early public comment on late agenda items. Joe, do we have anyone? We do not. All right, so we'll move on to the next, which is we have no discussions. I'm sorry, 3 discussions. Formal action may be taken. Request for name change for the Sustainable Township of Hamilton Green Team. Joe, you want to? I see this was Sue and Audrey. Here.
So the green team does a lot more. Sorry, thank you. The green team requested a slight name change just to be a little bit more expansive and more fun in their terms. So they're asking to be called the Sustainability Team because they are a sustainable team, and they just wanted to have a little bit more fun with their group, and we support them on it.
Committee, any questions or comments?
This has been talked about now and hashed back and forth for quite a while, and I'm happy to see that we finally, I guess, we agreed on something. Not we, I wasn't allowed to vote, so.
Do we need to take action on that for them, or are we?
You do, and I would just raise a question. My law firm donated the time to create your corporate documents many years ago. I will look at those for you for free, and you may have to change your incorporating resolution. So if you'll leave your contact information with Joe, I'll look into that and give you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Are you on any insurance policies of any kind?
We did not end up incorporating because of insurance.
Okay. All right. I'll look into it and I'll take care of it.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Salmon. All right, with that, the proposed new name is Hamilton Sustainable. Forgive me, I just got new glasses and I wore the wrong pair tonight. To Hamilton Sustainability Team. Did I get that right? All right. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to make that change.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Talley.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hopkins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's it. Congratulations. All All right, next we'll move on to 4A, ordinance number 1987-2022. This is an ordinance to amend Ordinance 1963-2021 entitled Ordinance of the Township of Hamilton, adopting an amendment to the redevelopment plan for the entirety of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, to permit cannabis establishments, distributors, and delivery services. With this, I understand there may be an issue with some of the language in this, but if there's any questions, we'll entertain them now. Sorry.
The record will reflect Committeeman Richard Cheek just arrived. It is 6:44 PM.
Hi, honey, you're home?
4 and 4A.
Mr. Cheek,
Richard.
we're on 4A.
Okay.
And as I believe you are aware, because I know you reviewed it, went through it, there's question on some of the language on this ordinance this evening. So we're just about to vote on 4A.
Can I vote on it or no?
Well, 4A is a public hearing.
Public hearing.
All right, this is a public hearing. While Mr. Cheek's getting settled, if anyone in the public wishes to speak, please come up, state your name for the record. Come up to the microphone, please.
Good evening, everybody. Let's see if I can get a good range on the mic this time without fumbling around it. So I did go through, I'm still too close, did go through and read through the ordinance, and as I'm sure everybody's aware, Waves of Green is under contract on a piece of land in the industrial park that is within 1,000 feet of the Wellspring Church on Summers Point Mays Landing Road. So when we initially engaged in that contract, we were looking at the existing ordinance, which called for 1,000 feet from schools and other facilities like that, but did not have churches included. So my concern now is with this amendment that that lot will no longer be viable for this purpose. So I wanted to just understand if, because of the timing of when we engage in that contract, if we would be grandfathered in or not, and if the answer to that question is no, is there a possibility to shift our RFP to some other facility or property inside the business park?
I'll tell you what, if you would just do me the pleasure of allowing me to answer your question further down on the agenda, I'd appreciate that.
On 5?
Yes.
Okay,
All right?
very
So
good.
if-
Thank
if
you.
you could just hold off till then, we'll see how that one goes, and then I'll give you a chance to speak again if you need to.
Excellent,
May I
thank
have
you.
your name, please?
Sorry, Paul Gitlin.
Thank you.
Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak on 4A? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Committee, if there's no questions and comments, if you've reviewed this, I'd like to bring this one to a vote. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
I have a motion.
What is the motion?
Motion to adopt 4A.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Cheek?
Pass.
Ms. Hopkins?
No.
Mrs. Link? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Patali?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
No.
Mr. Cheek?
No.
The ordinance is defeated.
All right, we'll move on to B, Ordinance 1988-2022, an ordinance by the Township Committee amending the Hamilton Township Code of Ordinances to repeal Chapter 173, Flood Damage Prevention, to adopt a new Chapter 173, Flood Management Section. Joe? Wanna help me out
Yeah,
on this?
at the request of the DEP, we're not going to take any action on this tonight. They are still working out the details in full.
So although this is a public hearing, we are going to move. I would entertain a motion to table this evening.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Patali?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
That's to table. Do you want me to advertise another public hearing? And
Yes.
for when?
She has to announce from the Diaz when the public hearing is going to be. Do we know?
I thought we were
Well,
holding it
There's no
tonight.
action at this point, so we don't have one to come back to the table.
So we'll have to republish at some point.
We good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to 5A, Introduction of Ordinances, public hearing to be held June 6, 2022. A, ordinance number 1989, 2022. This is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 1963, 2021, entitled Ordinance of the Township of Hamilton, adopting an amendment to the redevelopment plan for the entirety of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, to permit cannabis establishments, distributors, and delivery services. This is a new ordinance. All right.
Mayor
Joe.
King, are we have discussion on this?
Yes, we are. Yep. Joe, you want to start us off on this one?
This is a change to our ordinance based on recommendations from the Pylands, allows Class 1s and 2s. I would defer to Emily, our redevelopment attorney, for a little bit more on the other changes. I believe we-
Emily?
Good
Emily, if
evening.
you could just review the red line adjustments for us so that it's on
Let
the
me
record.
grab the other.
Okay.
When we were here in April, some additional language was added to the proposed ordinance, which was voted down this evening, to maintain a distance of 1,000 feet between properties for cannabis businesses located anywhere in the township. In addition, language was added to include, as the gentleman referenced, a church, synagogue, temple, or other place used exclusively for religious worship. The proposal before you now maintains that 1,000 feet distance and also maintains the church, synagogue, temple, or other place used exclusively for religious worship. However, the measurement of distance for the 1,000 feet is being proposed as from structure to structure.
So Emily, what facilitated that, that language was reconsidered, but there was other language from two classifications, was that?
Yes. In
Prompted it.
addition, we had language in the highway commercial and the business commercial zone. In the original ordinance, all classes of cannabis licenses were included, with specific reference to Class 5 and Class 6 for certain restrictions. And there was some communication between my office and Aaron's office that I was confused by something that I thought we were clarifying, that it was only Class 5 and 6, and I was incorrect. And so that went into the ordinance as well. And so that is being clarified to allow. However, the language also requires that only vertically integrated licensees may have and operate more than one class of cannabis business within a single structure. So you have to be a vertically integrated one licensee who can do growing as well as retail. So we won't have separate businesses located in one, and it still maintains that standalone structure requirement.
Committee, any questions of Ms. Gibbons?
Yeah, I do. Emily, can you please tell me what page and paragraph it shows 1,000 feet? Because my copy shows 250 feet. The 1,000's been crossed out, and the 250 feet.
What is the number of the ordinance that you're looking at the very top?
Let's give agricultural, page 1.
189, 1989.
1989-2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Where's that? Because I have it right here. Oh, okay. My apologies. So we do have to make that change. Aaron's just advising me that that change has to be made back to 1,000 feet as opposed to 250.
Okay. Committee, I asked the question because we have to make that change. Can we vote on this tonight?
It may be introduced this evening. You're making the changes, and then that is the document you'll be introducing.
So the adopted document will have the changes as we put on the record this evening.
Got it.
Okay?
Perfect, thank you.
So,
And that will be from structure to structure.
yes, I
That
want to
is-
be,
Yes.
I want to make sure we're very clear on the the two classes that Emily spoke about, and the distance. I want to make sure, because I don't want there to be any questions about this after the fact. The distance will be 250 feet from property line to property line and 1,000 feet regarding the structures. So the structure would have to be 1,000 foot away from a school, a church. What was the other, there was another class on there. Synagogue.
Synagogue or other place used exclusively for religious worship and other recreational facilities within the township.
Structure to
So it-
structure.
Correct.
So is that an and or an or? Like it's 250 feet property line, and 1,000 feet structure to structure? Or is that an or?
I think it'd be no, I think it would be,
So with 250 feet from property line to property line, you're allowing the use.
yes.
You would like to have the structure itself 1,000 feet from any other existing structure that fits within that category.
So two separate items, but.
So it's an and,
To answer
not
your
an
question,
or.
it is an and.
It is
And,
an
not
and.
an
Thank
or.
you. Okay.
Now, what about the federal law that still says 1,000 feet?
The federal law also says that cannabis is illegal,
And cannabis is illegal.
not in the state of New Jersey.
But so the 1,000-foot law doesn't,
And
not
I'm
gonna
not so
affect us
sure,
either?
I'm not so sure about that. I'd have to check on that, but I don't believe that we're following the regulations from the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, and that's what we're required to do.
Any other questions of Ms. Givens before I allow her to step away from the mic?
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
Starting with agricultural, existing B2, it's crossed out, measurement distance shall be from structure to property line. That's being changed from structure to structure, as I understand it?
1,000 square feet, structure to structure, 250 property to property line.
Okay. And that would apply in the industrial business park as well?
Yes.
Yes. Is there any area it doesn't apply in?
No, it would be,
That it goes through forest areas,
So
design
do you know,
commercial?
and I think you all do know, there are 3 existing contracts for sale in the industrial business park for cannabis use. Because of the construction of the Wellspring Church, all 3 of them come within 1,000 feet of a church. And what could be the effect of this ordinance amendment is it could abrogate the rights of the purchaser and us as the seller in those 3 contracts. However, there's a proviso in the contracts that say it's subject to our ordinance being approved in final form. And in order to be approved in final form, it has to be approved by Pinelands, which it has not been.
Correct.
So I'm not concerned about, and I'm not going to give you a legal opinion here in open, but I'm not as concerned about that. But there was a request, and I made it known to all of you by the Industrial Commission, that the proviso that says they should be 500 feet from each other in the business park. That is, licensed property 1 has to be more than 500 feet from licensed property 2. The Industrial Commission wanted you to consider removing that. Because it is a business park. It's not like a highway commercial, it's not like a recreational or agricultural zone. That is not taken into account in this contract.
Can we
Something,
make,
I'm only raising it because it's something you're going to have to revisit in the future, in my opinion.
can we
Bob,
make that
isn't-
provision now?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Can we make that provision now? Because I agree with Bob, 250. No, I'm thinking it's industrial.
I'm fine with that in the industrial park, in the business park, I'm fine with that.
All right, so you're fine with removing it, Carl?
yeah, because I found it kind of odd that we're more worried about keeping cannabis places 500 feet apart, but hey, let's put it 250 feet from school.
All right, so that being said,
I just want to set the record straight. There would have never have been a cannabis place 250 foot from a school. That would have never happened. Not only, even if we had passed it up here, it would have to get through our planning board, and trust me, it would never would. But that would never have happened, and it will not happen in Hamilton Township.
so Emily, I think if you turn to the page that has industrial business
Number
park.
5. page 5.
It's under B,
B1,
B1,
yeah, I can delete that.
that would be deleted.
Yes.
That takes care of one of my problems.
Would, because it is an industrial business park, would it be appropriate to reduce the 1,000 feet distance?
That's where I'm going
in-
next.
In B3,
I
for
think-
just the industrial business park?
To my way of thinking, you're reading my mind. An industrial business park is what the law calls sui generis. It means it speaks of itself because it is itself. It owns and sells properties, it develops properties, it sells properties at a reduced rate to cause employment, to spur development. It was the reason that we did the taxation relief. And to my way of thinking, it makes no sense that you can't have one here and one right next to it, considering you're only allowing so many in the business park itself.
As long as they're the proper distance from the other entities that we talked about,
That's true.
I'm fine with that.
All right. So, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you should reduce it to 250 in the business park only.
With
For
regard to the
cannabis-
distance between
cannabis
all of those other
establishment to a
uses.
cannabis establishment, your recommendation is that we reduce that structure?
No,
No.
we do away with that. I thought we discussed that. That has no use to the business park.
If I may, what Mr. Sandman, I believe, is asking is that the restriction with regard to location within to an existing school, school facility, park, rec facility, synagogue, other place of worship, that distance be reduced,
Only in the business
only in
park.
the business park.
That distance what?
Be reduced.
Only in the distance. We've had a tremendous amount of discussion on this. I can tell you, and I'm not going to put words in the mouth of any other township committee person up here, but I can tell you that I do not believe if the opportunity exists for a cannabis establishment to be located within 250 foot of a school in the industrial park, and again, we may have to go back to maybe there was some questionable planning in the business park very early on, because we have schools and we have things of that nature in there, but we have to deal with that now. If there's any opportunity that would exist, I do not believe that we would be able to pass this in that form. So and again, I will allow the other committee members to weigh in on this, but the question at hand is, are you willing to reduce the setbacks in the industrial park to a flat 250? That's,
Mayor Cade, let me echo my
Can I
thoughts.
approach the bench, please?
of course.
This is the Wellness Street Church. Yes. Can you see that, sir?
Yeah.
Here, I just handed her.
And that line represents 1,000 feet. What I'm saying is that these four are under agreement. They're application. In a business park only, not any other zoning district. To my way of thinking, legal counsel, there is no reason to have that distance between the wellness center and these three lots. For a lot of reasons.
Well, Bob, it's 250 to the property line, but 1,000 foot for the structure. Where would the structure?
Well, on this one, you're not gonna get a structure.
Mhm.
On this one, you're not gonna get a structure. And on that one, you're not gonna get a structure. Maybe there. And that depends on them being the first to get licensed.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, between that property line and this lot, there's a road, and it's all wood. And you have three contracts right now that are gonna be affected by this. Somebody explain to me why it's a good thing.
Let me take the jot. I got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old granddaughter, and unfortunately, they don't live in Mays Landing. But if they were to live in Mays Landing, and they were to go to the little gymnastics club, or they were to go to the elementary school, and we change this rule to 250 near a church or a synagogue or a school, I don't want my children or my grandchildren to come home smelling like pot. We are hoping and praying that this olfactor sensor is going to work, but the technology is new. If you go across the internet and you look, there are townships all over the country that have problems with odor control. We're mitigating it by putting some hard, fast technologies in there. But if they're only as good as the people that enforce them. We don't have a strong tax record, or a strong record in this township of enforcing things like, I don't know, private roads, pick one. So we're up here today and we'll enforce it. But 5 or 10 years from now, somebody's going to have a little kid that's coming out of ballet school or coming out of gymnastics, and they're going to go, Mommy, what is that smell? And 250 feet doesn't cut it for me, Bob. It just doesn't. So I am all for, all right, I am all for the 1,000-foot structure to structure. 10 years from now, the schools may not be in the industrial park. They may be transitioned to something else. The gym may move away, but it's been a good community partner for the last 10 years. Has anybody asked the gym what they think about putting a cannabis structure next door to them? Well, my point is, we're affecting a business that's been a good business partner here, and we've made some decisions, and you're asking us to consider 250 feet in the industrial park where we put gyms for kids and where we put schools. And my answer is no. Move the schools and move the gym, and then you can have your decision.
I'm not advocating
Okay.
I have a duty, I have a dual role. By statute, I represent the industrial commission as well as being your solicitor. The dual role makes me have to make you aware of this. And this is going to affect these properties undoubtedly.
Yep. It will,
Can I see your line? Can I see your line on that?
it will mean that they won't be able to have cannabis structures there, and I get that. And if it's a hardship that we have to endure, then we endure it. But what it does mean is that there are other viable businesses the township is growing. Have we considered doing a satellite industrial park in another area where there's more farmland, specifically for cannabis, where we can give them 5-acre lots and let them build whatever structure they want, because they're going to be out with the animals, and cows are never going to complain about the smell of pot. But kids are, and we've got to protect our next generation.
I'm not advocating
I know.
for or against. I'm saying this is your opportunity to consider it. And these are the reasons why I think it deserves consideration.
I know.
Okay? Now, you're all in mind, I think, to do away with the setbacks between the licensed properties in the park.
Yes.
500's out, good, that's a start. That means that 2 of those could be licensed, the one in the middle can't. And that's just the way it's gonna be if you decide. You're elected, I'm not.
I know. But we're both grandparents and we're both parents. And so I appreciate the fact that we could potentially be liable for litigation if the township had negotiated some stuff and we don't have this moved. I get this. But 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we're hoping that this olfactor sensing equipment technology is far enough along, and that these cannabis growers are responsible enough that we'll never smell this stuff. Fingers crossed. And maybe we look at the ordinance today and we go hardline and say, nope, we're not deviating from this. This is where we are. And maybe a year from now we come back and say, well, you know what? That was a little tough. We don't smell it over here. Let's amend it then and give it to them. But if we give it to them now, we lose our ability to control that odor. I mean, yes, we can shut them down, but if they're a revenue generator, it's real hard to shut down an income stream.
Give it another potential out, this is under its at some point, the purchaser could come before you with redevelopment ordinance, which you're amending upon, and say we want relief from this particular provision,
That's correct.
or this particular property.
That is correct, yes.
Here's the reasons why we should go. That can work.
What Mr. Salmon is referring to is there is an argument that could be made in front of our planning board that would hear this under redevelopment, that the structure, in the map that Mr. Salmon's showing us, with the fact that Oakwood Boulevard runs between that, I see this as a perfect example where that structure they may ask for relief for that structure to be 850 feet away as opposed to 1,000 feet away. And that would be something the 9 volunteers that you put on the planning board would have to make that decision at that time.
Whoever the applicant would be before the planning board would have to be a redeveloper, named redeveloper by this governing body, and have entered into a redevelopment agreement that sets forth a lot of other
So there is some control on a site-specific project. So that is another reason I'm not happy. I would not be doing my duty if I didn't stand here and tell you what the rights are and what the rights of the industrial commission is. If you have any other questions?
Thank you, Bob.
Emily, this is structure, the yellow is structure, and then the setbacks are from structure.
Correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay, committee, based on what was just discussed, what was put onto the record, questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I'll be entertaining a motion to adopt, please.
Introduce.
We're in public hearing.
Oh,
No,
No,
we're
this
introducing
is
this.
simply an introduction
This is
of an
introduction.
ordinance. This isn't a public hearing.
Yeah,
This
right,
is just
correct.
an introduction.
Ah,
So we
that's-
would need a motion to introduce as amended as we had discussed.
So, I'm sorry, so we're going to go, it's 1,000 feet from structure to structure.
correct.
250 feet property line to property line. Right?
Except in the business park.
Well, and that's for
The business park.
cannabis business to any of the schools,
The way I understand it,
church,
it's 1,000 feet,
1,000 feet, structure to structure.
structure to structure, church, school, building
Right.
to building. We're doing away with the 500-foot gap between licensed cannabis properties in the business park only. That's the way I understand it. Did I miss anything there?
No, I believe you got it.
But I need to clarify that for, in the way that we discussed the 1,000 feet, we also were adding 250 feet from property line to property line and 1,000 feet from structure to structure.
That is the way that we came prepared to look
So
at this and read this
I'm
over.
removing the 250 feet from property line to property line?
Removing it, did you say?
Yes. Based on what Mr. Sandman said, that's my
That
understanding.
is for this committee to decide right now.
Okay, so
Is
I'm just
that
waiting for the
permissible
motion.
in that park? If it is, then
And it's still 1,000 feet structure to structure. You're just eliminating the 250 property line to property line
Only within the business park.
in the business park.
Mr. Sandman, did you get that? Listen, we got, I mean, I want to make sure that we get this
What are you going to double
right.
dip?
Unfortunately, no.
Emily, would you just repeat that for Mr. Sandman?
Certainly. So for the industrial business park, we are removing the requirement or the restriction that no Class 5 cannabis retailer shall be located within 500 feet of any other Class 5 cannabis retailer establishment.
Agreed.
That's being
So we're
eliminated,
striking 500 feet.
which is B1, and it's on page 5 of, well, it's under the industrial business park standards here.
Okay.
And then B3 will be, no business shall be located within 1,000 feet of an existing school, school facility, park, and/or recreational facility, church, synagogue, temple, or other place used exclusively for religious worship. Measurement of distance shall be from structure to structure.
Now, I have a question on that. That section applies only to the industrial business park. Is the 1,000 feet from structure to structure going to apply in every zone?
Well,
Because each zone is separately spelled out.
Yes, it would. It would apply in every zone when it comes to the three named entities that we just spoke of: school, church, synagogue.
Well, there's more than that, but yeah.
Yes, you understand, right?
So it would be in every zone in the district. I'm
Yes.
clear.
We okay with that? We're good, right?
I'm good.
Nails it? Okay. I-
I'm still saying it should be cannabis structure to property line, because children are going to be out playing, people are going to be outside playing, that's when you're going to smell it.
Anything else you want to add to that, Emily? Ms. Gibbons?
No, as I'm confused with your requirement for the 250 feet, and maybe, Aaron, 250 feet from property line to property line. I'm not clear on what that
I
actually
don't think that
means.
even
Are
does
you
anything.
clear on what that means? I understand the 1,000 feet from structure to structure.
That's it.
But
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
I don't
we
understand the
can simplify it by
250.
that. But
Yes.
we did get caught up in previous discussions on this with the 250 and the 1,000.
yeah, so just 1,000.
Yes.
Good catch, Emily.
Now, Mayor, you invited this gentleman to speak at this
I'm-
time?
I was going to ask him if, is there anything else you want to add based on the discussion you're hearing?
Here, is that registering? Great. So I'll just say that, these numbers are kind of arbitrary in a sense, right? So we want to have everything be far enough away from a school where kids aren't coming in on the school bus and seeing these kinds of facilities from the street. We certainly don't want that. It's in our plan to not even have signage out front and to build as deep into the lot that we're on as possible. But I will say that 1,000 feet structure to structure still takes a lot of the usable land that's on the lot that we're under contract on and takes it out of usability for building on and expanding on. So our plans call for an initial 2,500 square feet of flowering canopy with expansion to 10,000 square feet. Now, that would fit inside the building envelope for that lot just fine with the 1,000 feet from the schools, but again, 1,000 feet from Wellspring, not so much. So I would suggest, and this is certainly up to you entirely and not up to me at all, but maybe do 1,000 feet from the schools and something like 500 feet from Wellspring in the business park in particular, because that church being situated where it is really takes virtually all of Oakwood Boulevard out of usability for cannabis establishments. So I understand the intent and all that, but it does make it quite difficult to get built.
Great.
Questions?
Any questions? Mr.
Can you
Jones?
show me on this where you are?
Sure.
One of the greens.
Orientation here. Or this one.
Now, you see where it ends?
I do.
And you see where that ends?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of space open for development.
It takes this entire front half of the lot and chops it off. So it only leaves the back side, and then with the other offsets for property line boundaries and things like that, all the zoning and planning board stuff, that really only leaves the back half.
Well, I'm going to answer your questions earlier today. Can you renegotiate for another piece? Absolutely. For the industrial commission, set aside your obligations on the existing piece, I will recommend it. Our job as an industrial commission is to help you develop. We want to be your partner.
Yep.
So we will do whatever we can to facilitate your project. But they're going to vote the way they're going to vote.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
To this gentleman's point, with regard to the zoning standards that are set forth for that area in terms of setbacks and things like that, if you do have a project that the committee is happy with and you have a redevelopment agreement that you're happy with, you can adopt a plan that establishes zoning for that specific piece of property that will allow all of that space at the rear of the property to be usable space. So the setbacks and things that you have to meet in the front in order to meet that 1,000 feet can be adjusted so that it's a virtually variance-free application. And I know that use variances and bulk variance and things like that really impact financing and other things with regard to engineering. So the site may be more usable because it is going through the redevelopment process.
When you take into consideration the type of town we have with a downtown Maison proper, many rural areas outlying, it's very difficult for us in any ordinance we consider, it's very difficult for us to cure all the issues with one single ordinance because of the diversity of our town. So it makes it very difficult on us. If you could have the benefit of seeing what we're looking at here, the distance, there's a very large wooded area behind Wellsprings Church which will remain intact, Then there is a street, the main street going through the industrial park, which is Oakwood Boulevard. The property that's in question is across the street on Oakwood Boulevard, so any application would still shield from Oakwood Boulevard, but yet it may be within that 1,000-foot required setback. And that's where redevelopment and/or our planning process would have to take hold to see if in fact we could allow a developer to do that. So it's impossible, like I said, to create an ordinance that covers every single situation. So we have to get one in place, and then we have to make the modifications as necessary for the right development in the right area, and I trust that we have the volunteers in place to do that. So, with that being said, we've already discussed the other changes, which I believe there was consensus by the questions that were asked on the other changes. Is there any appetite from Township Committee or any further discussion on reducing the 1,000-foot requirement from a school, I don't want to keep repeating them, but on the classes that we discussed? Is there any appetite for that? If there is not an appetite for that, then I would suggest we make a motion based on the other facts that we sat here and reviewed and went through, as Emily stated at the microphone. So I would entertain a motion either removing the 1,000-foot requirement or a motion with the 1,000-foot requirement in it.
I'll motion removing the 1,000-foot requirement for structure to structure. Make it structure to structure.
So the language that we currently or have injected into it would be that it would be required in the business park, with the exception of a cannabis to cannabis business, which could be basically at any distance, correct, Bob?
Could be contiguous.
Based on what you're saying, you would still be required to be 1,000-foot from a school, church, or synagogue.
Or similar facility, yes.
Measured structure to structure.
Measured structure to structure. Is that a motion?
Yes.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? I will second it. Rita, could I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
I'm going to pass.
Mr. Vitale?
I'm still sticking with the 1,000 feet from the structure to the property line, so I'm going to vote no.
I appreciate the questions, the comments of everyone up on this committee. I do believe that this is a workable number. I think that we've really, I can't, if anyone says again that we have not taken our due diligence and taken the time to hash this out, we've spent a tremendous amount of time on this trying to get it right for the township. As I vote yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
I vote yes.
The ordinance is introduced.
All right, the public hearing again, I just want to point back out, the public hearing on that will be held June 6th of 2022. All right, we are going to move on now to item B, Ordinance 1990-2022. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 225 of the Township Code entitled Parks and Beaches, specifically Article 2 entitled General Regulations.
I've reviewed and approved it.
I believe this was put on by our chief. And it refers to our hockey courts and the permitted uses at the hockey courts. Chief, is there anything you want to add, or questions, comments from the committee, please? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Can I
So-
ask a question?
Of course.
Good.
Chief, can I ask a question? I want to make you talk anyway. Sorry, Chief. So I just want to be clear that we have a street hockey court, and we don't want ice hockey pucks on a street hockey court. I just want to make sure I understand my game before I go out there in my rollerblades,
Yeah,
which I'm not
that
allowed
is
to.
correct. Now, you can use rollerblades, you can't use roller skates.
Okay. So can we?
So that the hockey pucks cause damage to the boards. I
Okay.
mean, I thought you were going to give me the technical name for it.
Hockey boards.
Okay, boards, all right. And what we found that they were going out there and they were using the lacrosse balls, and apparently that was damaging the boards as well. So they're only supposed to be used for hockey, street hockey. And it's only going to be, which is played with the ball. So we do have two different courts out there now. So the reason for this amendment to the ordinance is that right now the courts are locked up, so you can only use them if you're part of the street hockey program. We realize that there's other kids in the township that don't want to play on a team, but they would like to go out there. So this gives us an enforcement aspect of it, so we can make sure that they're playing the right sport in the court. So that's all it does. And we're going to open up the one court so everybody can come out and play.
Okay.
I have a question. Does it allow approved roller hockey pucks, not ice hockey pucks, because they're completely different?
I can't answer that
Roller
question.
hockey
I would
pucks.
say no.
Roller hockey pucks? Yeah, come on.
Well,
Come on.
we're going to have good signage out there.
We'll have to discuss that later at another time.
It's going to be the Kostecki rule.
Right, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
You know how many times him and I have talked about this ordinance, and he brings that up to me now?
Where does Grandma keep the cookies? Top shelf. But
Yeah.
light that lamp, sir.
Any other questions?
Yep, good to go.
All right, thank you.
All right, committee, questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Talley,
Second.
second by Ms. Hopkins. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes. All right, we'll move on to C, ordinance 1991-2022. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 225 of the Township Code entitled Processions, Parades, and Public Assemblies and their respective fees. Chief, committee, you have questions or comments while I still have the chief standing here?
We're going to publish the fee schedule, right? I think this is good.
Assume we would do that right away, right?
I'm sorry?
The schedule will be published?
Yes, it will be public right away once it's passed and everything. It's very reasonable. It's comparable to Galloway and Egg Harbor Township's fee schedule. We did realize, like I spoke at one of the other committee meetings, that we are pretty much the only township in the area that doesn't charge fees for for-profit businesses and for other communities coming in to
I
our
appreciate
township.
making that clarification. This is not impacting our township residents that use those fields on a regular basis. This is impacting
It's about our
only
taxpayers, yes.
paid leagues that share the use of those fields from time to time.
Absolutely. It's a good thing, without a doubt. Any questions?
Questions, comments?
I do have one question to Mr. Kostecki. Mr. Kostecki, in a website that we're evolving for Hamilton Township, will these fees be, will the outliers be able to pay this fee and get it approved and get it done on credit card using a website? Or are they going to be having to come in every time they want to handle a
They're
transaction?
working through our SDL to accommodate more departments to allow credit card processing, yes.
Perfect.
You also have to keep in mind, though, they do have to file for an application and stuff like that, so they're going to have to deal with Carol Wright or our community.
I think at some point, they're always going to have to come in, at some point.
At some point, they're going to have to come in and talk to her to make sure that they're complying with insurance and everything else.
They'll comply with their own insurance,
I'm sorry?
their own insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't think that at some point we can get that over the internet? Like, I guess I'm just looking at other townships in other states, and we keep wanting to bring people into this building, and I get it, but there's a lot of transactions that we can handle over the wire, over the internet. Like, I could PDF and send you my insurance, I could PDF and send you contracts, I can sign, I can do everything over the wires.
They're still going to need to get fingerprinted and things of that nature, so.
Well,
it's-
fingerprinted, yeah, you're right. You're going to come in for that. That's, And then once you have them electronically, we give them to China, right?
Anything else?
My point was trying to make this.
And
more
I believe
user-friendly.
we have started to make it easier, even with the Cove Beach sales. I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but they can come in and they can pay by credit card and things of that nature, and we did start that. So we're trying to make it more consumer-friendly.
Thank you, okay. Sorry for busting on you.
All right. Committee, questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Vitale,
Second.
second by Mr. Cheek. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
All right, we'll move on to 6. This is awards of bids, contracts, and/or change orders. First, we'll take A, it's a resolution, bid award, electric repair, maintenance and services, bid 2022-05A to Northeast Electrical Services, Williamstown, New Jersey, for an amount not to exceed $25,000 on an as-needed basis for the period 5/17 to 12/31/22.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, B, resolution authorizing acceptance of proposal from Remington and Vernick Engineers for consolidation of the township-owned lots on tax map of the Township of Hamilton Phase 1, cost not to exceed $72.50. Committee, questions or comments? What we are doing here for the public's, we are actually, our tax assessor is working, would be working with this company to consolidate all those little tiny lots that you hear us talking about into larger parcels and identifying all those lots. That's what we're doing with this. You'll see further on the agenda tonight, if accepted, we have in excess of $100,000 of land sales, multiple land sales, that are excess property to the township that are now going to be put onto the tax rolls and hopefully developed at sometime in the near future. So this is going to take us one step further in that process. We're going to eventually do the entire township. Committee, questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
I have a second. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Ms. Hopkins, by the way, thank you. This came from a discussion that Ms. Hopkins and I had. We went right over, talked to the taxes assessor, and we started this ball moving, so thank you. All right, C, resolution to retain the legal services of Robert A. Feinberg, Esquire of the Law Offices of Robert A. Feinberg, P.C., as special counsel for the historic preservation, and authorize mayor to sign the same. Committee?
I have to excuse myself for this vote.
Okay. Let the record reflect that Mr. Sandman is stepping away. This is an attorney that is being retained in order to help us complete the process with pocket sites in the Township of Hamilton. Any questions, comments?
No, but I believe he's also reviewing the ordinance
Correct, yes.
in its entirety. He is a historic preservation attorney, and we've had some challenges in our ordinance in the past in that. And so this gentleman is going to come in, and we're just going to ask him to do a once-over on it to make sure that everything's really tight the way it needs to be.
Fantastic. Questions, comments, motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Cheek,
Second.
second by Ms. Hopkins. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, next, we have the consent agenda, items A.
No, you got
through-
6D, right?
Oh, thank you, Carl. Thank you, Carl. We have in addition 6D, this is a resolution authorizing the award for animal control services, RFP 2022-02 to Animal Control of South Jersey, Egg Harbor, New Jersey, in the amount of $2,795 per month for the period of 6/1/22 through 12/31 of '22.
Could you remove 7F for me, please?
Oh, well, we backed up to 6D, and then I will do that on the next.
Oh, we're on D, I'm sorry.
Committee,
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Rita, roll call.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
All right, next, I will entertain a motion for 7A through the late list of 7B, with the exception of removing 7F for discussion,
And 7J.
and 7J for discussion. Anything else, committee? If not, could I please get that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Again, I just want to point out, K, L, and M, and I believe it was P, are all land sales that, again, will generate in excess of $100,000 in unanticipated revenue for the township. So with that, we'll take 7F. This is a resolution denying the release of performance guarantee for the Preserve at Hamilton LLC in the amount of $50,970.06 as recommended by the Township Solicitor Robert Samian in his correspondence dated 4/19 of '22.
I just wanted to point out a couple things. First of all, this is a development that went bankrupt. And a gentleman who was a friend of the developer put up $50,000 of cash towards the performance bond. And he has retained counsel and has sought a refund of his $50,000, as it's been held by us for about 6 years. I reviewed it, I looked at it. My first inclination was he probably should get his money back. When I went out to the site, I noticed that there are 4 telephone poles in the right-of-way. And the right-of-way is rather lengthy. It's over 1,000 feet, which carries with it maintenance, snow plowing, and cost. There is a body of law that says that if you release the performance guarantee, it is tantamount to taking it by dedication of road. We don't want to take this road by dedication. It is an unnecessary expense. As bad as I feel for the gentleman, taxpayers should not endure the cost of maintaining this road. And that's why I put it on the agenda, and that's why I wrote the letter.
Appreciate that, Mr. Seaman.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion to move 7F, please.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Hopkins,
Second.
second by Mr. Cheat. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we'll move on to 7J. 7J is a resolution authorizing public land sale block 1115, Lot 1, 4.54 acres, 4644 Crescent Boulevard, minimum bid $90,000.
I just need to abstain from this.
This is, I tell you, this is one of the things that started the process that we're undertaking now. When this property, when we combine the lots together, is what's going to garner the price for this property. Individually, each parcel would not come anywhere near the amount that we're going to end up getting from this land sale. So it's a positive thing. I look forward to us doing a lot more of these in the future. Let's get these properties on the tax rolls. Entertain a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion. I'll second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right.
One abstention.
One abstention.
Next, we'll move on to 8A. Resolution appointing Karen Place as regular member of the Historic Preservation Commission to fill an unexpired 4-year term expiring 12/31/25. She is currently serving as an alternate member.
Motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
Yes, and carried.
All right, next, we will move on to 8B. 8B is a resolution appointing regular members to the Historic Preservation Commission to fill the unexpired 4-year terms. Term expiring 12/31/23, term expiring 12/31/22, and term expiring 12/31/25. Bob, do we have to take these individually, or can we take them?
You do.
Okay, so if I'm assuming that they want us to take them in the order in which we received them,
That's up to you, that they're not in any particular
they're
order.
not.
No, sir.
Was 3 already done, Rita, in the prior vote?
3?
The one that ends on December 31, 25?
No. No.
So there's two,
Moving the alternate?
there's 4 total?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Well, I would say for the For simplification, I would suggest that we just take them in the order in which we see them.
Agreed.
So first, I will entertain a motion for, it appears to be with this writing, Linda Mislanko, for the term expiring 12/31 of '23.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second?
Second, Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Next, we'll move on to Joseph L. Miller, term expiring 12/31 of '22.
Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second, Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Next, we'll move on to John Applegate, term expiring 12/31 of '25.
So moved.
Motion.
Second?
Second, Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
I would like to thank Karen. I'd like to thank each of the members. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your volunteerism here in the township. And I look forward to the new additions to the Historic Commission. I vote yes.
All yes and carried.
Next, we'll move on to C, resolution appointing Rachel Villa as full-time police officer at a step 1 of the CBA with a salary of $47,937.51. Chief, I thought I told you 50 cents. Start date to be determined contingent upon successful completion of the background process.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Martina, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Next, resolution appointing Victoria Fagan as a full-time police officer at the Academy step of the CBA with a salary of $45,599.86. The start date is 5/17/22, and once again, this is contingent upon the successful completion of the background process.
So,
Motion?
I have a motion and a second. Read a roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
And I would assume by the next one that this now exhausts our list. So there is a request for a motion to authorize to advertise for full-time police officers. Point of order, the last two appointments, just for the record, do not increase headcount. We're maintaining it as we've done for the last dozen years now. We've retained the proper headcount. These are replacements of individuals that are going out the door. So, thank you. So we'll move on to E, motion to authorize to advertise for full-time police officers.
so moved.
I have a
Second?
motion, second.
You don't need a roll call.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Samian. Next, we'll move on to approvals. Minutes, regular meeting minutes of April 18th, 2022.
Motion?
Motion,
Second.
second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we'll move on to B, minutes of the executive session for April 18th of 2022.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Vitale,
Second.
second by Ms. Hopkins. Rita, could I get a roll call on that, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
All right, we'll move on to C, bills. The bill list total is $10,456,955.86. Nobody wants to touch
Come on,
that.
Carl, come on.
I hope it wasn't an interest-bearing account since we didn't pay it 2 weeks ago. Made a little bit of money.
By the way, the proper spelling is Sandman. for that.
Well done, Bob.
Committee?
I'll motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Cheek
Second.
and a second by Ms. Hopkins. Rita, roll call on that, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
All right, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. The township continues to utilize a grant database, and over the last 30 years, over the last 30 days, we've applied for over $3.8 million in grants, non-matching. They range from recreation to public safety, focusing on Underhill Park, Leapy Park, public safety funds for traffic and equipment, and we'll continue to aggressively pursue those. We are also asking for our department heads and employees to identify potential projects, and so that we can identify potential funding opportunities. We also met with the superintendent of schools, Dr. Zito, and their business administrator to discuss greater partnerships and opportunities for kids within the township here, including civic programs. And the school did express interest in improving the Duberson School, and we look to further that conversation in the very near future to discuss possibilities. The township also started the onboarding process with Planet Civic for residents and businesses to have their say, and we have a projected rollout of June 1st. However, it's going to be earlier than that because we already started framing the questions and what we have. So we hope within the next week or two that the Planet Civic will be ready to roll out. Part of that will be the sidewalk Park Road conversation. And that questionnaire was sent out via hard mail last week, and we are receiving responses right now. The township also is exploring internship opportunities with local colleges, and this is a statewide initiative with the New Jersey Municipal Managers Association to increase employment interest in local government. We are also focusing on CDBG funding. We're focusing on MISPA ADA doors, Underhill sidewalks, as well as ADA bathrooms at Underhill, and facade grants for businesses. The township is addressing excessive calls also, requesting patient transport from John Brooks Recovery Center, and we're addressing them immediately. And the township will also be expanding the SDL capabilities to allow more departments to have credit card payment processing. That's my report, sir.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you and the entire staff. I mean, obviously, every grant that we can get, especially non-matching, every grant we get helps us move forward with the township as a whole, doing positive things with no burden on the taxpayers. So we appreciate that, Joe. Thank you.
Mayor King, can I inject for just 1 second? And I don't know if this is the platform, but I want to throw out the concept. In a business environment, when we have revenue being generated, if you will, by employees that are recognizing non-matching grants, we reward them. And in a township environment, I would think that we would have some kind of venue in place within our HR department so that these employees that are recognizing, pursuing grants that are of a non-matching value and bringing revenue into our town to get our parks and our recreation, they should be rewarded in their performance evaluations. And to include Mr. Kopecki, who actually brought the grant machine into us. So could I ask you to please look at that mechanism to see what other townships are doing and how we can generate employee morale or motivate our employees? I want this to be, if they're going to take the extra time to identify these grants, then I think they should be rewarded for such. It's a revenue generation
I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
Proudly, I have nothing to report.
I think you've added quite a bit tonight, so we thank you. Joe?
Thank you, Mayor. Keep it real brief. 3rd Street obviously is on hold at this point until after school lets out. But I do notice that some of the restoration work could take place, so I'm going to be in touch with the contractor to kind of get some of those areas cleaned up. Particularly now, if they get some grass seed planted, it'll help to stabilize that before they come in. And it won't have an effect on what they're going to do in the future. I think actually, as of now, June 24th, I believe is the last day of school. Hopefully they'll be in right after that and finish that out. As far as Atlantic Avenue.
In its state of disrepair, it actually looks better. If you drive down, it looks like, a war zone on the street itself, but the sidewalks, the curbing, it actually looks very attractive. So
Yeah, I know Brett had his crew go down and do some of the sweeping down there. The contractor, did some, they went down and did some, but unfortunately with some of the trenches being open with backfill, as soon as you ride over them, especially when it was dry, stuff just gets scattered. So Brett's been pretty good with having his guys go down and help clean it up. But I think we can at least fill in some of those areas between the curb and sidewalk and along the backside of the sidewalk, just to make it start to grow a little bit before they get in there. Atlantic Avenue Phase 1 or Phase 2, obviously we've got the $338,000 grant, so we're waiting to move ahead on that. In addition to that, we just received another grant for $300,000 for the other end of Atlantic Avenue, and that pretty much will cover most of that construction cost. That'll be another one we'll get moving on as well. Leapy Field, we met with some of the officials and the different organizations and kind of reconfiguring the concept with that. I think the main thing and the main goal is everyone is to get that building up and get that started, and that's what our focus is going to be on. And that's about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. All right, Mr. Vitale.
Oh, find my notes here. Thank you goes out to all the volunteer firefighters that fought that fire out there at American Auto Salvage. I believe it was 3 tanker task force that came in from various counties. And a lot of work out there getting that fire out. So big thanks to them. There was a lot of hours spent out there fighting that fire. Memorial Day ceremonies coming up, so this is the last meeting before that, so don't forget to come down to War Memorial Park for our ceremonies. We had Saturday cleanups all through last month, 5 Saturdays. I made it out to 3 of them, I think. I don't know, maybe 2. I don't know. But we were mostly spent out in Mizpah. Did a lot of cleaning up in Mizpah. I say this every time we talk about this. It's amazing what we find and how much trash people throw out of their car. Then we spent one day, we came down to Wheaton's and cleaned up around Wheaton's and cleaned up the back lane behind Victor's Liquor Store. And that's really amazing how much stuff gets thrown out back there. And there's even trash cans back there. Brett does his best to try to, we know that there's trash out there, but I said to Brett, I said, maybe we should put a big board up there with a bullseye, and, we know you're gonna throw it out the window, at least try to hit the bullseye. It was talked about earlier, with the Hamilton Sustainability Team, Green Fair this Saturday, 10 a.m. out of Oak Crest High School. Vendors, food trucks, exhibitors, animal groups, all kinds of stuff going on, 10 a.m. out at Oak Crest. The Cove will be open starting June 18th through September 5th. Thursday through Monday, 11 to 6. Come down, get your passes. You can get them down here at Town Hall, and then once they open down at the Cove, you can get them at the Cove. National Night Out is Tuesday, August 2nd. Been working with the chief and with Detective Tannum. We're going to close down River Road at Gaskell Park. We'll have food trucks, we'll have vendors, we'll have all kinds of stuff going on down there. We're looking for donations. It will end at the end of the night with a firework display. So we are bringing fireworks back to town. And I know it's a Tuesday, but, plan ahead of time, try to get off work early, come down, and I think it's going to be a really, really good time. Really looking forward to it. Fingers crossed for good weather. And that's all I have to say. Reagan, Maddie, miss you, love you, hope to see you soon.
Ms. Hopkins?
Well, I've been on vacation, so I'm just getting back into the saddle. But I wanted to just kind of let you guys know that the dog park is progressing, the boundaries are being established. We now have the agility courses, we know the products that we're going to be putting in and who's going to be building them and stuff, so we've gotten a lot more progress coming down. We have established a grand opening theme. It's going to be Roll Out the Barrel. It's going to be hopefully in some kind of beer fest, and we're going to ask that everybody bring their best friends. So we're moving along on the dog park. Don't have an exact opening date in, but we are progressing on it. That's all I've got for now.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Yes. As spring is upon us, all the local kids' sports are ending now. They're heading into All-Star and this and that, and once school is out, they're basically done. And as Carl mentioned, the Cove will be opening. Hopefully the parents that all their kids are doing the spring sports and whatnot will go over to the Cove and take part of that and just show and support the town. And that's all I have.
Fantastic. All right, well, I do, I want to just support Mr. Patali's comments regarding the fire departments, our volunteer fire departments. Let's not forget they are volunteers. They give of their own time, and that was one heck of a fire that they had to deal with, and they had a lot of assistance from neighboring towns, so we do appreciate them. With that, I have nothing else to add, so with that, I will open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak? Mr. Rogers?
Harry Rogers, 1069 Morningside Drive. I have two comments. First, on the consent agenda, the solicitor recommended denying the release of the performance guarantee in the total of $50,000, almost $51,000. I don't know, it seems like we could have split the baby there and given the guy most of his money back and not let him completely off the hook. It's one thing to be out 50 grand, it's another thing to be out maybe 45. I don't know this particular developer, but if we let him completely off the hook, we end up with the road. We don't want the road. But wouldn't it be right to give him most of his money back?
Not a bad idea. I'll consider it. I'll consider recommending it to you.
Thank you.
The talk about the cannabis setbacks, distances, has been an endless vicious circle. And I've held off comment until things apparently have settled down. I think there's one thing that you haven't considered in these setbacks. You talk about the distance between structure to structure. What keeps a landowner from putting a structure at the extreme edge of their property simply to interrupt this process? My suggestion is that you define structure. Habitable, commercial structure, because there's plenty of unpermitted things that could be put up and be put up relatively quickly. So I would suggest that you, as a board, consider this. I'm not voicing my opinion for or against this particular, actually, I'm against the whole thing. I think this is horrible, and I think we shouldn't be doing it, but the people of the state have voted for it. I think we can prevent the whole process from becoming further muddied by just including in your verbiage the description of structure so you don't find yourself bushwhacked. Thank you.
Harry, you always have value-added comments. Thank you. I believe, though, with the township, there is already, I mean, if sitting on, and Harry, for the record, is a long-standing member, volunteers his time on the planning board. I believe there is a definition of structure in that process.
Church, synagogue,
Yes.
school.
But Harry, we'll look into that. I will follow up on that further. I appreciate what you're saying. As I said earlier this evening, no ordinance is perfect. And we're doing our best to get the best product we can for the township residents. But I do appreciate your comments, and we'll look into that and see what we can do about it. Thank you.
So I just
Sir, you
wanted to
didn't state
thank
your name,
Carl for
please.
bringing up.
Could you state your name, please?
Yeah, Greg Sambrone. I won't tell you where I live, but anyway, I just wanted to thank Carl for bringing up National Night Out. It's going to be a big event. We haven't had fireworks in years. We haven't closed down or had anything at the Bulkhead and Gaskell Park since probably the 80s. So it'll be a fun time. And please come out because the mayor volunteered to be in the dunk tank. So you guys can have your best shot at him. So he's definitely going to be out there. We're going to mess up his hair a little bit. So it'll be a good time. So thank you.
Funny, I don't remember that conversation, but
He does.
yeah. Could you get your address again, please?
Well done, Chief.
Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Motion second.
Second.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have no executive session, correct? So I will entertain a motion to close.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.